Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Head Start's Leader's Guide to Class Monitoring in 2023. We're excited to have you all here today as we get started to talk about what it's going to look like and what this could look like for your program. Feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat if you'd like. That should be open for you all today, as well as our Q&A feature. Laura, if you want to go to the next slide. So we are going to get started just with some housekeeping items so we can move on to the next one. Just a reminder today that we are recording, and that is great news because that means that tomorrow you can receive a copy of this recording in the email that we'll be sending you, as well as your certificate of attendance and resources, including anything that we talk about here today. As I mentioned, the chat box should be open, and looks like it's not, so we're going to fix that. You have access to the Q&A box to ask any questions during the duration of the presentation. So I'm going to get to work on trying to re-enable our chat for today. But in the meantime, I'd like to introduce our hosts for today. We are joined today by Laura Iannazzo and William Hill, and I'm going to turn it over to them to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. I am Laura Iannazzo, and I'm a professional services manager here at Teachstone, but I still have Head Start in my veins. I got started with class. That was my first connection as I was Child Development Administrator for the YWCA Head Start program in St. Louis, Missouri. So I oversaw the 56 Head Start classrooms and a bunch of childcare partners, curriculum instruction. So, Head Start lives within me. So I'm excited to be here today. William, how about you?
Thank you, Laura. Good afternoon, everyone. William Hill here, Assistant Director from our Children's Services Division from the City of Chicago's Department of Family and Support Services. And so we oversee our federal program Head Start grants throughout a variety of the communities within the City of Chicago. But my reach goes long and beyond my tenure here with the city, as I too have been directly in direct service. Began actually as a home-based provider, home visitor, managed some of the in the community programs that we've had under the Head Start grants, and went all the way to a program director, and now here at the City of Chicago. So super excited to still be partnering with the high quality work that we do in our class, using the class tool and in our partnerships with Teachstone, and excited to be here with all of you all today. Thank you, Laura.
All right, so let's get started. You might be thinking why class is being used by Head Start. As all of you know, class is a research-based observation tool that is used around the world as a quality assurance tool. Using class ensures that every child has access to the high quality interactions that they deserve. It brings a shared language and understanding that allows for professional growth over time. However, my co-host can say a lot more about why we use class today.
I sure can, Laura, and you're absolutely right. One of the reasons why we use class is because we do understand that pre and post the pandemic, our field looks way different. And we're all in this together. And so using the class tool gives us this systematic systematic system or tool to be able to gauge and engage our teachers and our direct service workers in what we deem as being conducive to those positive outcomes in which we're seeking to achieve as we're working with each of our children individually and supporting those families with that home and school connection. Super important.
Yes. So I am extremely distracted by the webinar chat with all of the amazing people from all over the United States.
Love it.
Here, I am just thrilled with everyone who has come out and came to listen, but also ask your questions. So real quick, I know the chat's still going crazy about, everything. But what is one word that comes to mind when you hear class? And I see interactions. I'm going to watch it really close. Quality. Yes. I'm going to try not to read names. Interactions. Thank you. The why, the relationships, connection, climate, intentionality. Oh my gosh, it's going so fast. I can't even keep up. Effective, intentionality, responsive. Yes, conversations, interactions, sustainability, observations, expanding growth, teacher growth, challenging. I love real people, right? But it's meaningful, it's positive, it's equity. I mean, you are painting the picture. You are all experts on class coming in. You know our why, and you know exactly what should come to mind when class. Intentionality and interactions and connections. That's what we want for our children, because we know that is where the greatest impact happens. So now we're going to actually hear from we're going to start with a quick video from Dominique McCain, who is formerly of the Dallas Intermediate School District, which did and is continuing to do a large-scale class implementation of pre-K through third grade. She currently is with Educational First Steps, who helps transform low-performing childcare centers and communities with the greatest need across North Texas into nationally accredited high-quality early learning environments by coaching and mentoring staff, educators, and administrators. So let's listen to her for a quick second.
I describe class as the how of an educator's job. So often, educators are told the what of their job through a variety of evaluations and a variety of observations. But very seldomly does anyone get granular enough to help them understand.
Okay, I have a raised hand, and I'm afraid it's because of maybe when it switched, it didn't share my sound. So let me do a new share just to make sure that everybody, oh, you can hear it. Okay, I just didn't want it to. I was afraid that raised hand, because we have multiple raised hands. I'll let Olivia tackle those, but I'm going to share it just one more time. Rewind it real quick, just because I was afraid of you not being able to hear it.
I describe class as the how of an educator's job. So often, educators are told the what of their job through a variety of evaluations and a variety of observations, but very seldomly does anyone get granular enough to help them understand immediate action they can take to transform what's happening in their classroom. Class does that. From the domains down to the dimensions, down to the indicators, down to the behavioral markers. It teaches and gives a very clear path for educators of how to do their job. So to me, class is the how of an educator's job.
Oh, and that was very powerful work.
Hello.
No, we don't want to see Monica. Sorry about that. All right. So we need to remember class is less about measuring for the sake of getting a score, right? It's not a gotcha tool. Instead, it's a system meant to help you continuously check in and improve interactions. Educator-child interactions are at the heart of class because they are the most essential element. Class also enables educators to measure and improve other key aspects of children's daily experiences in learning settings, including the activity settings and environment, which is in our second edition. Together, this broad picture of classroom life allows educators to understand the ways in which curriculum and instruction come together to enhance children's learning and development. So if we step back and you look at class as a CQI approach, the reason why it can formulate or support the continuous quality improvement is because it's so focused on interactions, and we know interactions are at the heart of great teaching. It promotes, William said earlier, about data-driven impact and ongoing progress monitoring. So you can use it informally to coach or formally also to coach, but it is a systematic way of looking at interactions. It gives consistency of quality across birth all the way to secondary, and it offers comprehensive role-based PD. So that's what we offer, and you can offer leaders so that you can create that culture of class. It always starts with leadership, right? But then all the way down to aides in the program that just need to build awareness. It supports integration and scale across the organization, and it defines an equitable approach to quality. So everybody knows, and everybody, if you use class, and create a culture of class, you all are speaking the same language and know what's expected. So I'm going to throw it to William though, and he's going to expand on this.
Yeah, thank you for that, Laura. And that's so important when we talk about the what the young lady in the clip mentioned, and then how kind of have you elaborated and color that for us. It is all around about that systematic approach, as I mentioned prior to, but it gives us the same tool, the same language to understand where our teachers are and meet them where they are. And that's important as we think about the professional development piece for our direct service educators and those support staff members that help support the children on their day-to-day lives in our perspective environment, sites, and classrooms. And you also mentioned another thing when it comes to that professional development piece, is having teachers having the understanding and that buy-in into the tool, buy into the process, right? We definitely need to measure and then improve, but then focus on sustaining those high quality measures that we have achieved by going through the tool. And that's what we found to be great success when we talk about class and the interactions between our teachers and our children. And then even furthermore, as I mentioned earlier, the home and school connection. Class is all about that environment within that classroom, but also that quality interactions. When we talk about the social emotional piece that class do bring, it's encompassing of that home and school connection as well. And I know we've been able to tap into some of the services you guys offer as well around class at home as we bring parents into the fold, because that partnership is truly one of the foundations that we build the high quality work that we're seeking, those outcomes that we're seeking. They're the foundation of that work, as well as what we have within our high quality classroom environments.
Yes, and you brought about that socio-emotional and that health. And we don't have time today to really drill into what class is all about. And honestly, the people in the room could probably talk about it for days on end but at a really high level, we know that class is a tool used to measure interactions, and it looks at interactions in using 3 big types. Remember the domains, right? So we have emotional support, we have classroom organization, we have an instructional support. So we know that emotional support sends a message to children that says, I am here for you. This could look like educator sensitivity, right? This could look like some teacher who is sitting playing with one child and notices and responds quickly to help another child across the room crying who just maybe is getting dropped off. Then, we move into classroom organization, and that sends the message, I make plans for you. Children know routines and what's expected. And as soon as a teacher flicks the light during a center time, they immediately start cleaning up. And their center is prepared for their center's cleaned up and they're prepared for story time. That sort of efficiency and that message of I make plans for you is comfort. And that is why children flourish in an environment like that. And lastly, instructional support, which is, the toughest. We know it's usually the lowest scoring, but it really sends the message is I learn alongside you. So I don't need to speak for you. I see you as a capable human that is going to formulate your own ideas, and we are going to converse, and I'm going to be very intentional in how I respond so that you keep digging deeper or thinking more. Which expands learning, right? So this might be getting into deeper level thinking about expanding, using those juicy words so that they expand their vocabulary daily. A teacher might ask a student about their vacation to the mountains by using, a term that just is like, oh, great elevation, to ask how big the mountains that she saw. And so all of this intentionality and bringing awareness is what class is all about. But we also know we benefit, children benefit. So you can see that enhanced reading and development and literacy skills, the more exposure, but the more ownership children have in a classroom, this is what happens. Enhanced reading and development skills, literacy skills, better impulse control, and decreased problem behaviors. If children are comfortable and want to be part of a community, if they feel like their needs are going to be met, that is where their brain, we all know the brain, that's where it can stay at rest, that predictability. All those behavior indicators in class allow the brain to stay at rest. Greater learning gains across multiple school readiness domains. We know our children are ready to go to kindergarten because they're able to learn and they see themselves as capable human beings that can learn and grow. Strong development of math and science. And that's that inquiry, that curiosity that comes when you are truly implementing the strategies of class. So what you're here today is to talk about a quick overview of the 2023 monitoring. And I haven't been around monitoring for a little while, but I was excited to see these changes. So let me just put them up here. So grant recipients will begin to get notified in August, which, can you believe, that's next week? That is crazy where the summer has gone. For FY24, an updated process will be used to conduct class reviews. Grant recipients that are scheduled for class review will have the option to self-record and submit their own videos for their monitoring review. Grant recipients scheduled to receive a monitoring review in 24 will receive notification letter, just like always, 45 to 60 days before the start of the event, depending on which monitoring you're getting. The experts of this is, of course, your regional office. And so if you have big questions, you can put them in the chat here if you have questions about class. But if you have questions about this monitoring, you really need to reach out to your regional office. Though they're the experts in this switch. Isabella, did we want to pause for any, or let's let William talk about, let's hear from William, who's gone through reviews and kind of how he's starting to prepare, how he would prepare.
Thank you for that, Laura. And so again, I'm here representing our City of Chicago, our Department of Family Support Services, our Children's Services Division specifically, in which we are a grantee and we have a number of sub-recipients in which we fund for our Head Start and Early Head Start CCP, and Early Head Start expansion programs across our 77 communities here in Cook County in the City of Chicago. And so how we were preparing for our upcoming Office of Head Start review is always about data dialogues. That data that we received from our previous observations, from our formal observations that we do and we conduct annually, but also those informal observations that are done in-house and specifically for our sites or our specific agencies. We really use that data and compare what we see. And then we also come back as we having these data dialogues with each agency. We're actually talking collectively because it's not about each agency. As you know, if we have any other grantees on the call here, it really is about what we look like collectively and how we look and represent as a whole as we compile all of our classrooms for our pre-K. class observations. And so in preparing for this is around really breaking down the micro to the macro and the macro to the micro. I like to talk about it both ways because again, a lot of times data gets stuck in our data team maybe. And so it's important that we really feed that data down and up. Data should flow both ways from those of us who are working in a position to support teachers in doing the work, but also teachers have that right to understand what they look like. And as we prepare our teachers for the class observations, it's important that they understand the tool, the outcomes, and the impact as well. And so it's all around data collection, data analysis, and data dialogues for us as we begin to then plan strategically how we can support our teachers for their upcoming observations. And so with that, it's about teachers doing peer learning groups. Peer learning, you come observe my classroom, I come observe your classroom using that tool. And it's important for, again, our teachers to have and share that connection as peers. What works well for you in your 3 to 5 classroom may not work for mine, but sharing that information, it just may work for mine. And I never thought of that as a 3 to 5 year pre-K teacher. And so these data dialogues and coming back and preparing for class allow those kind of cross communication for our teachers. And then also bringing in our education staff to hold in cohorts specifically within their programs. And this works for us to, again, build that continuity of communication, but also support. And that's something that we also see here as with the support of and our partnership here with Teachstone. I'm able to build out some trainings that I need my teachers to attend, or based on the data that I see from the class observation, from our scores, from my averages, I'm able to work with my client success partner here and say, hey, I need to really focus in on instructional support. I need to focus in on classroom organization. And that really, and I'm able to see the benefit immediately almost when my teachers register for those courses immediately, right? Those education courses. Coaches register immediately, those education coordinators register for those courses immediately, but also when we see the efficacy of the trainings once they leave our trainings here and then take it back to the classrooms, that is when we know we struck gold, and then we're able to see that then in the next cycle or the next round of our observations. And that's typically how we prepare. That's pretty much my class story, is to use the data. To build out supports, to share the data, encourage participation in those trainings, and then again, to review again. Again, we know that cycle of continuous quality improvement, and class fits right in that cycle of continuous quality improvement for us on our end. Thank you, Laura. And if we can even hear from other individuals on the call, if that's possible, Isabella, we can go through some of the questions in the chat to see if anyone shared any thoughts on their class story as well. Laura?
Yeah, I think we should take a pause for a second. I'm looking at the Q&A and see, some broad questions, some questions we can't really answer for sure, but I do want to take a second to answer a couple of them and kind of give a non-answer for a couple of them. I wish I had all the exact timelines and things like that. But so one of the questions, if it's not, someone asked was, if it's not a score and a gotcha, why is the tool used to designate programs for DRS? So when I say it's not a gotcha tool, if you create the class climate and if you integrate it into your system, it won't feel like a gotcha tool anymore, because what happens is that everybody has clear expectations, everybody's talking, and you'll see those interactions improve. So you'll have the attitude of bring on the class, like the official class observations, because we as a center, as a CDC, or as an organization have already worked so hard. It is a professional growth tool. I will say that I've worked with several agencies before I worked at Teachstone, and I've worked in several agencies before Teachstone, and we were able to utilize, and I think William can speak to this too, we were able to utilize that intentional language to grow professionals, to grow our workforce, right? We want them to stick around and we want them to be the best they ever can be, right? And so that is, so when I say it's not a gotcha tool, it feels like that in Head Start. However, if your organization really dives in and starts integrating as a class culture, you'll see a big change in how you feel about it. It won't feel gotcha. It'll feel, come on. Then William, do you have anything to add to that?
I do not, Laura. I mean, I think you summed that up absolutely correctly, especially with the teacher buy-in that I mentioned before. It's about the expectation being delivered from the across our whole teams, from the teachers and the direct service support workers to our leaders, to our education coaches, all the way to our C-suites. And once that language is the language, it's not a gotcha tool. It just is what we do. And of course, we all are here with the passion for those high quality outcomes for the children and families we serve. And this here to me is not a gotcha tool. It's more of a checklist. Are we doing everything accordingly to kind of how we see our quality outcomes, how they lay as we use this systematic tool?
Yes. So I'm getting a lot of questions, and I said the word second edition out, and I put it out there. So I'm getting a lot of specific questions about, are there any plans to transition to class second edition? And if so, when? That is going to be part of what Head Start brings to you. And so you, I would say that there's a tremendous planning in that transition that has to happen, and capacity building, obviously. So let's leave it for our leaders at Head Start in partnership with Teachstone to really figure that out and get ready for it, so that it's not just like a shock to our system. We want to build capacity within organizations. And it's a baby still. It's only a year. Second edition's just turned a year. So we are still in the works with that. So hold your hat on the second edition and look from your regional office and Office of Head Start to really guide how that transition is going to look. William, do you have any other thing to add to that?
Thank you, Laura. I do not.
All right. So then will Head Start be doing video monitoring now? So that is part of the change, is that there is, you as a program have an option, and you need to learn more about that option from your region of how that will look. But we did pilot a program that worked, and so now that is on the it can happen in programs. So you need to check with your regional office about how that exactly word for word is going to look, but we know from the press release and everything that it is an option. Julie said, if you monitor regularly and use class language when you monitor, then it creates a system of support and makes the formal observation feel less like a gotcha. You said it way better than I did, Julie. Thank you. We require managers to be reliable observers and conduct in-program class observations annually. Julie, thank you. I probably talked too far around it, and that was perfect. That pretty much sums up how it shifts from a gotcha tool to a vessel of learning. Let's see. Are staff participating in mock class reviews to share information and feedback? I am not. I might need some clarification on what the mock class reviews are happening. So I'm gonna have Isabella type into that. Does Teachstone have video examples of pre-K classrooms that score a 7 in instructional support domain? We do have a video library that's exemplar that will show you strong examples of what it looks like. And we also have a great training called ISET, Instructional Support Essentials for Teachers, that has high quality. It really supports teachers' growth in that area. And they leave the training, the professional development opportunity, actually with action steps and how can I change but they go through it and they work through those cognitive knots of how to dig deeper in learning and how to be higher quality in their feedback. So if you're looking for something, a training, ISET, Instructional Supports and Strategies for Teachers, is a specific training. There's also for coaches, if you want your coaching to go strong into, there's instructional strategies for coaches. So a coach specific training. What is considered a perfect score for class? There is no perfect, right? It is what we're supposed to, it is measuring one snapshot of a classroom at a time, right? 20 minutes and then 10 minutes out, 20 minutes. So there really isn't like a bullet. Yes, we do have averages and we all want to be above average. But what I would look at closer than anything is I would look at how my scores are trending and is how I'm supporting teachers and how I'm supporting my program, is it making scores go up? So that is how I would look at, instead of saying everybody needs to get 7s, it's like, let's work from their strengths, right? And build upon that strength. And that's what a lot of our coaching models, well, all of our coaching models are, MMCI, MTP, all those models are built around, is that strength-based. So we don't look for perfect, we look for growth. First edition, second edition, we're doing first edition, we know that. Second edition transition, stay tuned. Let's see. What is class 2008? It is the original. It is what we have always used. There is a new edition out, a second edition that just came out last year and at this time last year. So again, it's still a baby. And so some organizations have transitioned to it. So that's why we've started naming the original version, we call it class 2008. I think we should move on, if it's all right with you, William. Is there anything else that you can think that we need to add?
Not to the Q&A at this point in time. I know we do have some more slides to cover, so I'm good to go forward. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move on. All right. So you're thinking, how do I prepare, right? And so many people in the chat, honestly, have been, giving good suggestions, like another, the chat keeps moving on me. But Jody said in the Teachstone library, it would be nice to know how short videos are scored in the domain. So that's a good suggestion. But in the video library, they're exemplars. So it is a high scoring. That's why they're in there. They're high quality interactions. Yes, for specifically what they're filed under. So, all right. So let's look at how, returning to monitoring might ignite kind of this, like, not our resting brain, but our like, oh, we got to start doing class again. And really what we know and what we're trying to convey is that the impact lies in integrating interactions into your daily practices and conversations and culture. So it's not something else to do. It is something that is part of your culture and woven into best practices of teaching, because really it's not about, and I know that kind of rubs somebody wrong because they put it in there, it's not about catching you do something wrong, but it's capturing all the great interactions that are happening and building using a strength-based mindset and building upon skills that staff already have, because that's what we want, is we want to lead to growth over time. Because remember that utilizing class as a vessel for professional growth is going to greatly impact your staff's overall integration of high quality interactions. So it's endless possibilities, right? So we can talk, William and I are just going to talk about some options. I already threw out, and it was a thank you, Isabel, for putting it in the chat, because that was not one listed, I don't think, in our in this plan for today, but instructional support essentials for teachers is a training that's allowed. So let's just talk about what is out there and how it's been used. So First, you need to identify the needs of your organization for immediate support by asking, who needs to get up to speed on the importance of interactions and how they're measured? And, we definitely know that teachers do better on class when they are aware of what class is. It doesn't feel done to them if they're informed. It's hard to really come together and grow if you don't even know what you're growing in, right? And so class primer for teachers is a training that really a professional development opportunity that allows teachers to understand the why interactions are important, but then it talks about the message. I'm here for you, I plan for you, and I learn alongside you. So while it's not this is what class is, dimension, domain indicators, it gives them a sense and it primes them to be observed. Next, we have, how can I support my educators with their biggest challenges? And I'm going to turn this over to William because his organization has actually used banking time. And so he can speak to, but there's instructional support kits that include, everybody likes to get things. It includes high quality materials that lead and support that lead to high quality interactions. But William, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can talk a little bit about banking time.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. And so what we do know about one, if I just take it one step back, when you mentioned about the class primer for teachers, that's around that buy-in, right? That's about teachers really understanding the tool and what they will be assessed on, what they will be observed on. What does this look like? And it does give them the opportunity to, one, understand the outcomes if they understand where they're starting from. And so that is the key that I've learned from all of the professionals in the classrooms that I work with that actually work with our pre-K children. Is birth to five, actually birth to five, and home visiting in different settings. It is just one of those things that just allow teachers to be better informed. So therefore they put their best foot forward, not as a got you, but just so this is the language that we spoke of multiple times before today. And so then when we're able to use banking time and combine that with already having the teachers buy-in about what quality interactions look like, we're able to have teachers, we're able to support teachers in building resources and building responses to when they're faced with undesired or negative behaviors in the classrooms. They are able to go right into their bank and pull out from some of those positive experiences that the teacher and the child may have experienced or shared together, right? Those shared experiences is really how we work to continue to build those quality relationships. But again, we see that our teachers, but most importantly, our children, they come out better. They come out more fulfilled. They come out whole because our teachers are now addressing the whole child as opposed to just the math or literacy objective or demand, or just making sure we're ensuring that we have captured this growth and development in this area. But we're looking at the whole child and how the child is literally flourishing within this classroom, within this environment, from all the shared positive experiences that the teacher and the child have had under that banking time. And so what we found is that the banking time really works well across our different environments and our different settings, to where it was something that my teachers across our funded sub-recipients have been asking more for. And I'm excited to offer them more of the banking time experiences.
Yes, it's really about creating that relationship with the hardest children. So that is, and something we have definitely struggled with post-COVID. Yeah. So how can I build excitement around interactions ahead of the school year? We are at Teachstone, we have a back to school with meaningful interactions happening, and we'd love to see, but also even just the blogs and the podcasts and all the different webinars will build excitement about the back to school. So what about tomorrow? So you need to support your staff and program, build confidence, lessen anxiety, reiterate and celebrate the powerful interactions happening every day. So, how can I expand my team's understanding of class while celebrating their continued efforts? we have personalized events with Teachstone, and it's interesting because it used to be we'd have to come to you and set up a big event, but now we have virtual events that are conducted from Teachstone. We have a plethora of different topics that can go on in those events. Then what can I do to support my team's confidence and morale? Class group coaching, anytime you can tap into coaching and build capacity in coaching, it is a huge aspect of growth over time. So you definitely, if you are thinking like, it's a systematic way of looking at coaching. It's a strength-based way of looking at coaching. So it definitely builds confidence, morale, it empowers. And so another question to ask is, am I feeling confident about our journey so far? And, you can always schedule a check-in with your class consultant. So then in the future, when we talk about the class being a culture, and once you start building that, and you'll start seeing the parallel process, you'll start seeing your environments, even between administrators and teachers, have that emotional support domain, right? Have that respect for each other and sensitive to each other's needs. You'll start seeing that. You need to keep it going. And so there is a shared understanding throughout the agency of class is really important. Even though, we have many layers in our agencies, everyone should have, and which I usually don't do, everyone needs to have the class foundations for teachers or primer for leaders. And that just gets everybody to understand, like, why do we even do this, right? Why is this even a thing? How your agency focus, measure, and improve interactions. Again, the My Teachstone class subscription has a ton of videos, exemplar videos, and really that reflective practice, that know, see, plan, do, which is our model for coaching. It's like, let's learn about it, let's see it in action. And that's what the My Teachstone class subscription allows for people to pull out, coaches or teachers to be able to pull out and actually see it in action. What does this look like? Because sometimes I struggle, right? What can I do to support my program when there's turnover? We have a CDA with class program, and again, class primer for leaders. So if you get a chance to offer those in a systematic way so that you can capture the people that have turned over, this is a professional growth tool. We want to grow our professionals within, so there isn't as high of a turnover. I recently worked with at a early childhood program that had a bunch of young teachers. And when I was coaching, when I was working one-on-one, I really talked about it's strength-based, right? And I can identify the strengths through the class lenses and be very specific with my language. And you could see it from time to time, the growth they had over time, because they believed in themselves and they worked harder to get better. And so they saw themselves as a fit in the grand scheme of early childhood. And that's what we need. We need people to stay around and see themselves as a fit. William, do you have anything to add about the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the successes that I've had, even on the other side in working in the direct service field as a director of a single site and multiple sites. At one point in time, I was over 9 sites as a program director, and just being able to bring all of my education staff into understanding the importance of just using the resources that we have to continue to grow in that professional development piece, but also as you mentioned, to grow the interaction, to grow the positive interaction, which then directly correlates to the quality outcomes that we see our children, that we desire our children to have as part of our developmental goals, right? It's just phenomenal when we utilize something like the My Teachstone portal, in which we able to meet with our teachers and participate in what we call reflective supervision, to say, hey, let's celebrate the wins. Like, your scores are here. We did some informal observations. We have a formal observation. Let's compare the two. and then being able to go in and pull some of those exemplar videos and recommend them, but then also put the onus and that the power behind the teachers investment in their own professional development to go in and say, oh, okay, well, while I understand my instructional support may be low, I also want to learn a little bit more about classroom organization. And that's what I love about the My Teachstone portal, is that it allows us as leaders and coaches to support our teachers in their growth, but it also puts that power in their hand as well, which works for us as we're building professional development plans, as we're looking for them to own that classroom environment and own those children that they're working with each and every day. As we know, instructional support is one of those, is that one that hit us all around the class tool. And so the ISET that I have seen great success across my subrecipients when we was able to use data, analyze data, and then build solutions from the data we analyze. And so being able to work with you around those custom events, their Teachstone around supporting the instructional support for our teachers, if we saw that was our need. That's to me that's what quality, continuous quality improvement is all about. It's just about seeing what we are, addressing it, and building the solutions. And that's what we're able to do with the services and solutions we have here with the Teachstone and the class piece.
Yeah, thank you, William. I was doing this with my hand because I was thinking it's cyclical, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It is not something that ever stops. If we stop, we're not growing and learning. And so we want to keep on going. So we're at the time for questions, and I pulled out a couple questions from the chat that actually are on the Q&A also. So I'm going to try to answer, or William and I are going to try to answer these kind of general questions. And so Misty said, my program stepped away from sharing score sheets with teachers and share strengths and needs. I prefer to know scores. Do you have any input or ideas towards this? And so I'm going to couple this with a question that's over on the other side too. And it is, has there been any guidance around how many times class assessments should be conducted each program in a year? So I'm going to do those two together. And the reason why is just like regard for student perspective, right? We cannot at Teachstone tell every program exactly how to do things and what is best for their program. You all need autonomy and leadership, voice and choice over your implementation. There are resources in blogs, and you'll see in other places in the actual manual that give you some picture of ideas on how to implement it. But you also have this huge, we have 516 people on this call that all do it a different way, but there's nothing wrong with how they're doing it because they're meeting the needs. So I have personally, I will say that I, as an educational administrator, I never wanted people to work for that A+, that score. And so we shared ranges. Does that mean that's the perfect way to do it? No, now I work for Teachstone, and each program needs to set that for themselves. So there's not a lot of guidance around how many times or what's the dosage, because it also has to do with capacity, right? If you're a huge program, it might be that you can only do once or twice a year. But if you're a smaller program, you might be able to do one formal and then do informal, so it really depends, and that's kind of a not answer, which is not fair, but it really depends on your capacity and what you're trying to achieve. William, will you chime in on this one a little?
Yeah, so I think you summed it up, Laura, when you said that it really stems from the organizational structure, right? The organizational culture and how they share information. But again, we know best practice, and what we've been saying the whole time here, or at least I have, is about that communication going from the direct service workers to the support workers to the leaders to the coaches and all the way up to our C-suite and back down again. We always find that with the transparency in communication, the transparency in sharing data, we understand where we are. And teachers are those ones, teachers and teachers' assistants are those ones who's doing that direct service work. So we are, in this instance, based off the question, we will be doing a disservice to our teachers if they didn't understand where they were and where they lied against the scale. And then also being able to utilize what I mentioned before, some of the exemplar videos and some of the other training tools and solutions that you guys have available to support that growth in their interaction and their outcomes. And those.
Yes, yes. All right, so people are starting to get curious about the video option with class. So one person asked, will the feds pick the classrooms? And another said, if we elect video, do we send raw data video? Can you share how that process would work? I will, again, and not answer, but I would say you are going to get guidance on this from your regional office. We did pilot to see what's best practices and how this could work. So it's not just something new that everybody's going to have to figure out. There is guidance in place, and that is going to come directly from the Office of Head Start and your regional to support you, just like they have supported you with the reviews in general. So it's new and it's different. It's a different thought process. It's different, but all the little nitty gritty of what I send, where I send it, how I record it, all those things are going to be articulated to you and supported through this process. William, do you have anything else to?
Thank you, Laura. I do not.
All right. So, okay. In scoring, we should be using the format that is outlined in the manual, right? Our company base our scores around the national averages. So yes, that manual is the way you do it. And that's what makes the tool reliable and valid, is that we all have the same methodology. If you forgot what the NICE scoring method is, you need to go revisit on our reliability support page. There's the NICE scoring process. It even has a video of how to do it. That's how you arrive at a score. And so that is the format, that we need to do that process to arrive at a score that's valid. And so you definitely want to. Now, how you share it out, again, that's your voice and choice, regard for program perspective, right? So that's how it works. Someone put in, when monitoring for class in our Head Start classrooms, I noticed that when classroom organization is high, then instructional support suffers and vice versa. Can you provide suggested videos our teacher can watch that show both high scores in class organization and concept development? Thank you. And so what I would say is don't tackle it all. And that's what our coaching says. I've seen a lot in chat. I'm trying to monitor both sides, but a lot of people are, one person said, I take one dimension at a time. And that is such a good practice. So everything else, class is very interconnected, and we know that, right? So we're very aware of how interconnected class is, and each dimension builds, are connected, and each domain is connected to each other. So if I would say, if your teachers are struggling in concept development, I might not start with concept development and everybody will go, what? But really what I would start with is find something in classroom organization that they're okay at, build on that strength and incorporate classroom organization. And that's where the dimension guides really help. And the class library. So when you see it in action, you can start saying, oh, but how can you get kids to think? Because that's what concept development is about. So that reflective practice, if I'm improving my behavior management, how can I get kids to think about behavior instead of me telling them what they need to do? That is, right? That's getting kids to think. So that would improve concept development, all while building upon a strength of behavior management. So I went on a little bit of a tangent there. I'm sorry. We're almost out of time. So William, would you like to add to anything?
No, I do not, Laura, because I would just add to that because that tangent, because they're all connected. And again, one of the things that I love about the class tool, and then when we talk about reflective supervision, it's just about building on what they're doing well, and then pulling from those systems and those opportunities that we have already built, that Teachstone has already built into the training series, whether it's the MT coaching or the class group coaching where they're learning from peers. It's just about building from already what they're doing right to then, and you will see that impact hit that other domain and dimension, even though it's not related. So we see, but again, this tool is all interconnected, and that's what I think is important that you've mentioned. It's just about building on what they're doing right already. Strengths-based is indeed a strength-based approach tool.
Yes. All right. So I had just, do you have the link for the reliability checklist you were just mentioned, Isabella? If it's just actually, if you go on our Teachstone website and go to reliability support, it has anyway, it's right there. You can get to it under reliability support on our website, but maybe Isabella can drop that in too. And then I get this question all the time about national averages. You really need to reach out to your regional office to say, we've been off for a little while. Thank you, Kim Polt, for putting that in. It's in the chat right now. But thank you. When the averages come out, we've been on kind of a hiatus of averages, right? Because of COVID. And so they're going to be the givers of the averages. So, but here we are. I am a professional services manager here at Teachstone and love to talk class. I get very geeked out about it. And William is an expert in, the city of Chicago. There are so many resources for you. You have eClick, Head Start. I can't believe it's called Head Start page because that's not what I call it here. Upcoming events. We have the class learning community. And then we have that free back to school meaningful interactions event. But you also have your rep. Your rep is going to be your way to connect and really brainstorm what's going to fit the needs of your staff. I think we are finished.
Yes, so thank you, Laura. I just wanted to pop in and say thanks to you both for presenting and all the helpful information that you shared. We sent out a ton of resources in the chat today, and I know it's probably a lot to keep up with, but not to worry. Tomorrow you will be receiving an email with a link to this recording, as well as all the links that we shared, upcoming events, how you can get in touch with your class reps so that you can get started. So we want you to have access to everything that you might possibly need as you begin this school year and you begin your monitoring again. We'll also be sending you the slides. So this presentation that has the links, that has the information that we shared, you will have access to that. So if there are any more questions, we have about 3 minutes before we have to get off. But otherwise, feel free to reach out. And I'm trying to pull that link too, to where if you're ready to get started, let's see here. Yes, I have the link right here. So if you are ready to get started, you need to talk to somebody about everything we discussed today, feel free to use this link. And thank you so much again, Laura and William. This was awesome. I think it was really helpful as we get started with this school year.
I agree. Thank you all so much for the opportunity. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Laura.